thank you so much for joining us in this edition of Planet Rise on Canal International. In Cameroon, as well as other parts of Africa, several non-governmental organizations as well as local communities put in so much effort to conserve biodiversity and promote sustainable development. Unfortunately, sometimes, more often than not, their efforts are not much noticed as a result of poor or uncoordinated communication. Aware of this challenge, International Conservation Organization Tropical Biology Association has teamed up with the Cameroonian NGO, the Resource Center for Environment and Sustainable Development, to train local actors in this field. When we come back, we shall be meeting the brains behind this 4-day training that took place in the nation's economic capital, Douala. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for choosing Canal International. Our first guest in today's edition of the program holds a doctorate degree in development studies. He has several years of experience in biodiversity conservation and is currently the executive director of the Resource Center for Environment and Sustainable Development. He's none other than Dr. Bunya Francis. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us in today's edition of the program, and welcome once more back to Cameroon.
Thank you very much, Madam Gina. I'm happy to be on Planet Rise again.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And our second guest in today's edition of the program equally holds a doctorate degree in environmental science. She equally has several years of experience training young conservation leaders, and she's currently the program director for the NGO Tropical Biology Association, Dr. Faith Munyali. I hope I got your name right.
Yes,
thank you so
did.
much for joining us in today's edition of the program, and I must say welcome to Cameroon.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm happy to be in Douala.
Wow, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, for 4 days, some local actors from non-governmental organizations have been meeting in Douala to talk about communicating impact, especially on their work with regards to conservation. The first question I would like to find out is, what is the rationale behind this training?
All right, so Tropical Biology Association builds capacity for conservationists in Africa, in Europe, and beyond. So this is one of those things that we do, training to build capacity. But this particular course is about communicating conservation impact. So what happened is that we realized a lot of civil society organizations do good work, very good work on the ground, but people don't know about it. Why? Because the component of communicating has been neglected. And so we are building their capacity on communicating their conservation impacts.
And now, when people don't know about the work they do, this local non-governmental organization, what can be the effect? Maybe Dr. Francis will want to say something about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's very important, like Dr. Faith would say, smiling in the dark, right? If you smile in the dark or under your mask, as we all know, COVID around, nobody notices what you're doing. So and the goal for any work to create impact is based on the number of people they're reaching out to. So if the world don't actually know what you're doing, you cannot be appreciated for that. So it's very important to build the capacity and the impact of those who are doing great work and showing them how they can effectively put themselves on the spotlight.
Okay. And Dr. Faith, tell us about the content of this training and what was the criteria you used in selecting the participants?
Okay, I'll start with the criteria.
Okay.
So this is a bigger project. It's not just here in Cameroon. We are implementing in other countries in the Guinea Forest West Africa hotspot, because it's funded by Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund. It's a big global fund that focuses on hotspots of biodiversity, where there is very critically endangered biodiversity that needs a lot of effort to preserve it. And so this Guinea Forest project has been looking at who is playing a role in conserving biodiversity. And through the RIT, this is a regional implementing team based in Ghana for the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund, is the BirdLife International in Ghana. They looked at their database and saw the CSOs that have been applying for their funding because their work is to finance for conservation. They looked at the entire database, and so many organizations have been applying, but they don't qualify because their applications are not up to standard.
Okay.
And they decided we are going to look for a partner who is good in training and bring that partner on the ground to train these civil society organizations on how to write projects, write good proposals. We've trained them on that. On leadership, we've trained them on that. And now we advise Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund that they need to go beyond just writing good proposals. And they need to know how to communicate. When they have finally gotten funding, they have done good, they have been good leaders, they are doing good work with impact. So how do they let this be known in the world so that people can start also taking their role and taking their part? So that is how these CSOs were identified.
And so you were saying that before, you say they have been writing projects asking for partnerships, for funding, but some of these projects had problems. Maybe Dr. Francis, you want to weigh in about, we are going to come back to talk about the content, but maybe before we come to the content, Dr. Francis, you may want to tell us about some of the problems that local NGOs face in terms of communicating their impact.
Yeah, that's a very important question. Thank you for that question. When it comes to communicating impact, and which is one of the key stuff we have been learning from this training and workshop, there is an approach which we need to use. Specifically talking about some of the approaches, the Amt approach, which is one of the approaches we're taking. We need to think about the audience, the message, and the tool. And most of the people that are doing the work don't have this capacity to be able to send it targeted or something that can specifically convey the message they want to pass in a way that is effectively received by the targeted audience.
And gets a feedback, because in communication, if you communicate without the feedback.
So in that case, they might be trying to communicate something important, but it's not getting to the target the way they want it to go. And you rightly heard what Dr. Faye said. The Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund. So there are a lot of people that have been applying, but they don't meet the standard. It means there was a gap in communication, which is where it stepped in. So, and also being a non-profit, we're working on capacity building. We've been able to see that we have a lot of civil society organizations doing good work. They're really working in the field, but they don't really know how to put the result out. It's a very big limitation. Some of the courses, resources, and opportunity like what we have created here are kind of lacking. Well, we're very happy that the Tropical Biology Association is stepping up. They've been doing this great work for a very long time. I happen to be one of the beneficiaries of their fee course in 2008, and they're also launching it now, and I'm also encouraging all young people that are into biodiversity conservation to check out this
advantage.
It's just to build their capacity and get more out there.
Okay, let's come back to you, Dr. Faith Munyali, to talk about the content of this program.
Of the course. So before we even do that, allow me to just elaborate on the point that Dr. Francis mentioned, that we've been doing this work for a long time. Tropical Biology Association runs field courses that have been running since 1994.
That's such a long time.
Oh yes, and the first Cameroonian to go on our program came in 1995.
Wow.
Yes, and she came from Limbe Botanical Garden.
Okay.
And she's still doing conservation to date. After that, there are about 94 Cameroonians that have been on our different field courses.
That's very interesting.
Yes, so so Dr. Francis came when he was still very young, just before launching his career.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of them, we have built their capacity, built their confidence, and encouraged them to go into conservation. Okay. And that's how the partnership has been building.
Interesting. Yeah. So can we now talk about the content of this program?
Exactly. So there are three main modules into this course. The first one is Principles of Conservation. And then the second one is Sharing Conservation Impacts. Okay. And the third one is Communication for Advocacy.
Okay.
You know, communication is a wide course. You could take a whole degree on it.
Definitely.
But this, we are doing something practical, something that the CSOs can apply right away on what they are doing. So the principles of communication, one of the main focus principles we are using is what Dr. Francis just mentioned, AMT. That is, you think about your audience. Think about the message that is suitable for the audience and think about the appropriate tool. It is a very simple tool, but when you elaborate it and go audience by audience, it's very applicable for the CSOs.
Okay.
Then sharing. How do you share your conservation impact? We looked at the local options, the global options, anything that will make it, you know, go out there authentically. Because the thing is, I remember you also visited us and shared a session and said some people exaggerate. You exaggerate what you're doing. And honestly, there are some things that will not add up. So we are teaching them to be authentic. How do you share? You have to share using practical things like good pictures, take good photos, and if you're writing reports, yes, good videos. If you're writing a report, don't just put a lot of text. Use infographics.
Yes,
and
illustrate.
Exactly, illustrate and just use exactly the real situation on the ground. And so we are just going practical and something palatable, and sharing can be even in social media. So we are telling them it's not limiting. It depends on your audience, your message, and then you choose a tool.
Now, when I listen to you, it makes me understand that you had a very interesting package for the trainees. Yes. But I'd like to turn to you, Dr. Francis, to find out from you what has been the feedback from the participants. How receptive, how interesting was this for them?
Thank you. This has been a very rich experience, not only for the participant, but to us as the resource person. Now, you know, the greatest work doesn't really come from theory. It comes from what you can see practically, because there is always that line between what we learn in theory and what is in practice. And just getting to kind of listen to the participant, reflect on what they're teaching and how it applies to them in the field has been really great. We had a session today on policy and advocacy, and we're talking about the barriers that they think kind of limit them from assessing decision making and putting out their work. It was really interesting, but then just because we have contribution, we have people that are having success, we have people that are having challenges, they're sharing all together. Everyone is really super excited, and the energy is really, really so high for this event.
Thank you very much. And talking about participants, we are going to take a quick break to talk to some participants who took part in this session. And when we come back, we'll continue with our discussions. The participants spoke to us about how they benefited from the training. We shall be right back. Stay with us.
Nous disons déjà merci à TBA et à CEPF et à RSS de Boya pour l'organisation de cet atelier de formation qui est basé sur la communication sur les impacts de la conservation. Et il faut le dire, ceci va permettre aux associations, aux ONG que nous sommes localement, de pouvoir mieux étoffer et mettre en place une stratégie pour mieux communiquer sur les impacts.
Our work is focused on the conservation of large marine animals, and this workshop comes at the right time to help us to be able to communicate our result, because a lot of things have been done to document those species, but Cameroonian and other people living abroad are not aware about that animals that are still facing several threats on the field.
This meeting is helping me build my capacity first as an individual, then on behalf of the organization, building my capacity to, communicate better to donors and other colleagues within the office.
Déjà dans notre association, nous faisons face à ce problème. Nous n'arrivons pas à communiquer efficacement nos différents projets, et au sortir de cet atelier, il sera question pour nous d'implémenter tout cela par rapport à nos différents projets et toucher un plus grand public.
And I'm working with Cameroon Gender Environment Watch, organization that is based in the northwest in Bamenda and Oku. and we are protecting the Kilumijim forest, which is found in the northwest. And this workshop has been so important to us because it's about communicating conservation impacts. We do a lot of work in conservation, and sometimes the language we use, especially in reporting, in communicating like documentations, is not always the best, especially for the donors, for the local communities, because we have different target audience. And therefore, it is important to know the kind of language, the way to communicate with them.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you're watching Planet Rise on Canal International. We are going to continue with our discussions on the importance of communicating impact on conservation, and we're going to turn right back to you, Dr. Faith. After watching the testimonies from the participants, how does that make you feel?
I'm really excited just to see that they were so receptive. But one thing for sure is that we are not just the experts.
Okay.
Actually, the civil society organizations, they are the experts because they've been doing this work. What we do is just to direct it and shape it so that it can, you know, reach out there. So what we did for them is to help them make a communication strategy.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. Dr. Francis, we are going to digress a little bit. Let's look at the African continent. Let's talk about some of the challenges conservation face today.
The first big challenge conservation face today is the lack of funding, as you will know, in order to push out their work and in order to continuously inform and engage with the people that need to do the work. One thing with conservation is that you cannot do it on your own. It's about the people. It's a participatory approach. And if it's participatory, it needs like quite a lot of funding to push things, to engage people, to bring people together, to have a conversation. And most of, especially young CSO that are engaged in today's, lack that capacity to outsource funding. And a workshop like this is really helping, not just to teach them how to communicate, but also they're able to also network with other participants, and then they know, oh, I've been able to do this. They're also learning by doing this. So if we can continuously create avenue like this, it's going to solve one of the biggest problems within the conservation in Africa, which is funding. There are so many great opportunities, not only for us, but also because as a world in a whole, without a better environment, we cannot exist.
Definitely, we have just one planet and we need to protect it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Earlier on, I was talking to you, Dr. Faith, and you were talking about the problem of poaching, deforestation. Maybe you want to elaborate on this aspect that are really affecting conservation today.
Yes, because, you know, nature, like Professor Madai said, our renowned Professor Wangari, she said, nature is unforgiving. You mess up with it today, it comes
Catches
back
up with
to
you
you.
tomorrow.
And I think we are in that situation where things are catching up with us.
We're seeing the effects of climate change
Exactly,
today.
the effects of climate change. Now, deforestation. You see some villages now, they don't plant and harvest as much as they used to do before. So the reality is dawning on us. And the challenges are real. And poaching. You know, I say this is not a local problem, it's a global problem.
It is.
Because when you kill elephants because of the tusk and rhinos, the problem is the people buying. Because if there was no market, then nobody would want to sell the product. So we are losing biodiversity, we are losing wildlife because of human beings' greediness. You know, there's so much greed for money, for dollar. That's why we are losing all our biodiversity.
You are originally from Kenya.
Yes, Kenya.
And when we look at conservation on the African continent, we can say we are proud somehow. I know there will be challenges of some of the strides Kenya has made so far. Tell us about your Kenyan experience as far as conservation is concerned and some of the lessons we can pick from there.
All right, Kenya is rich in wildlife for sure. And we have all the kinds of different ecosystems. We have savanna, we have forest, we have lakes, we have the ocean and sandy beaches. And because tourism is a very important foreign currency earner for Kenya, so we spend so much, you know, we invest in planning and marketing tourism, and that's why we have to preserve our wildlife.
Okay.
Our savannas are, you know, vast with so much, and people still want to encroach, but the government has done a lot of enforcement. There's positive and negative things about it, but the enforcement has helped. So we use national park system.
Okay.
So enclosed wildlife and protected wildlife. But tourism also allows ecotourism.
Okay.
We use ecotourism, so
Which
there's
brings in money
participation.
into the country,
Yes,
the
and
coffers.
participation of the communities in the ecosystem.
Yes, it's very important.
In
Because
the
if the communities are
ecotourism.
not collaborative,
Exactly.
then you won't get the
So-
results you need.
Yeah, so we are also promoting participatory management of natural resources through the Forest Act, and also through the Water Act. We are promoting management of riverine systems together with the communities.
And Dr. Francis, you wanted to add something. Let me come back to you.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of do a quick throw on the effect of climate change. For instance, for the past about 5 decades, Texas has been a very warm environment, no snow, but for the past 2
Texas
years,
in the United States of America.
yes, the past 2 years, there have been snow now in Texas.
Oh.
So last year when it happened, it took them unaware, and some people died because of that, because they were not expecting. And this year they had snow, and for the past over more than 50 years, they've never had snow. So it's really getting done that it's not just an issue of the media, that it's climate change, it's hitting people.
It's real.
It's hitting people.
Yes.
And now, when we are talking about the issues, you know, the conservation, and we're talking about some of these problems, the question I would like to find out from you is, why is it true? You've talked about the need, how it's affecting us humans, but let's look at it generally. Why is it important to conserve our natural resources?
It's important because nature is life.
Okay.
And if we don't put in the effort to conserve, we are putting an end to our own life. As simple as that. It's just like, let's just say if there's air pollution or Chendwala,
As it used to
it's
be.
not going to say, oh, this is the minister, maybe the minister can sustain for in-house purification for a while, but for how long can you do that, right? So no one is exempted when it comes to nature. If there's flood here today, it's not going to say, oh, I'm not going to pass through this house. Nature is life, and it's very important. You might not be affected today, but you don't know how soon
It's going to
get
hit you.
So
Yeah.
if we can all put in our own little effort to see what we can do, we'll all make the world a better place.
Okay, fine. I'm going to turn to you once more, Dr. Faith. You are the program director,
Program manager.
program manager
Yes.
at the Tropical Biology Association.
Association.
How important is it for your organization to conserve nature? And what have been some of the approach you've used over the years?
You know, one thing we believe in is that we have not inherited nature from the past generation. We have actually borrowed it from the future generation.
Exactly. I
So
love
we-
that quote.
Yes, so we are only custodians, and we have to do our best to make it better. So Tropical Biology Association believes in training today's conservationists.
Leaders, okay?
So we invest in people for conservation. That's our approach. Because when you know what you need to do, you will do it very well.
Okay.
And a lot of people have stumbled into conservation, so they lack practical skills. What is taught in the university, sometimes, you know, there is a gap between the theory
what you find on the field.
and yes, and the practice. In Kenya, we say in Swahili, kwa ground mambo ni different. Like practically, you need some practical skills, and that's what Tropical Biology Association does. We give practical skills that are applicable right away, not
Okay.
theoretical. And we also give confidence to our trainees. By the time you leave our field course, you're looking forward to go back to the ground to start implementing the things that you think will be best to conserve your local environment.
And for any young person that may be watching that is really interested in conservation and needs this kind of training, what should he or she do?
We really encourage young people who are just about to launch their career. They're coming from the university, they've taken a degree. We bridge that gap, so we encourage them to apply to our courses. You know, uniquely, we do this for Africans. We give half the chances for Africans and half for people from Europe just to learn tropical biology.
Okay.
You know, these people, they are the same collaborators we need in future.
Yeah.
So we give knowledge to both. So I encourage young people to apply. We have, for 2 years, we didn't have field courses because of the pandemic, but we're just launching back. It's very good timing because there is a call right now for a field course that will happen soon, before the end of the year. So I encourage people to apply. Just go to our website, just Google Tropical Biology Association, and right there you will see all our courses. Apply for the courses. And we also have online courses now. We adapted.
Okay.
And we
have
have
time.
Yes. So we have online courses. Even with these CSOs here, we have taken them through 2 courses online. And this is just the 3rd one that we are doing face-to-face.
We are wrapping up with the show, so I would just like to turn to you, Dr. Francis. Any last words?
All right, if I want to give my last words, I'm going to give it to the young people that are interested in conservation. Many people kind of tend to want to say, oh, I want to get into business, I want to get to this, and they might feel like there's no hope in conservation. But if I can say where I am today, is because I got into conservation. And what young people need to know is to know about the resources that are available for them. Like the Tropical Biology Association course, I do encourage them to apply. Not just for attending, just the network of people that you will meet there. It's really amazing. Dr. Faye spoke about having people coming in from Europe. I still have a lot of friends I collaborate with in the UK, in different countries. And this has kind of really made my work not only known in Cameroon, been able to participate in many international conferences because of the rich network. So I encourage everyone, be part of the environment. There's a whole lot there to learn, and it's a whole lot of resources. We just need to know where to turn to.
And you, Dr. Faith, any last words for our viewers?
All right, we believe in collaboration, and it starts with networking. I challenge young people, I challenge all people who are doing conservation. You can't cause enough impact on your own.
Yeah.
Let's work together. Let's come together. And even the journalists, I am challenging you. We need more journalists to do environmental coverage.
Okay.
Because we have journalists doing so many other things, but environmental, and that's why Tropical Biology Association is actually considering training journalists to help us in communicating the conservation work that is going on.
To transmit the message.
Yes, so conservation is not just a biology, discipline.
Hard science.
Yes, but no, we need everybody. We need collaboration with everybody, including journalists, like I said, and everybody.
And this is the
else.
collaboration going on. You are now on Planet Rights
Exactly.
on Canal International.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. So we are so glad you came. Thank you so much, Dr. Faith, and thank you so much, Dr. Mbunya. It's always a pleasure having you on the program. And for you, Dr. Faith, I hope you're enjoying Cameroon. Hope you go back with very good memories.
Oh yes, it's been great.
And for you watching at home, thank you so much for joining us in today's edition of the program. We shall be back again in a fortnight, but for now, it's goodbye and God bless.